And then I realized, like, even when I travel, I ask my friends that live there. Like, people always ask their friends or their contacts or their network, and then everyone has a list saved on their phone, and then they send that list to their friends. It's kind of like this like weird cycle, and no one's really benefiting off of it. And it makes like it really creates a lot of friction when you're trying to plan your trip, which is why the average person like takes them like 30 hours to plan a trip of like 1 week, which is crazy. So I was like, okay, so how can we incorporate this technology and solve this problem?
NFTs are redefining the cryptocurrency landscape and taking the world by storm. This is Ashley Smith from Fame Lady Squad, and I want to welcome you to From the Blockchain. As leaders of an all-female avatar NFT project, we want to share our insight and industry knowledge with you. We want to empower more women to participate and dominate in the NFT space. So whether you're an early adopter or just a curious learner, we hope you join us to explore the exciting world of NFTs. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Blockchain. This is your girl, Ashley Smith. I am so excited to be here today with you all with a wonderful guest. Her name is Shir Ibgui, someone who I've had the pleasure of meeting on more than several occasions through the accelerator program that we participated in, the Hug Accelerator program, who's brought to you by, founded by the one and only Randy Zuckerberg and her partner with the business, Debbie Soon. Such a wonderful experience. We touched on that a little bit in the episode. But I'm excited to talk to Shir about her business called Globe Thrivers, which is really bringing together Web3 technology and the travel industry. So we get a little bit into her thinking behind why this business, learn a bit about kind of how she's navigating where to go next and what she's doing and all the ideas and partnerships and things that she's bringing to the table. I really do think, and as usual, everyone, not financial advice. We're not suggesting you go out and buy their NFTs. They're associated with this business. But I think that she has a wonderful story of, innovation and really thinking about what true real world problems can be solved using blockchain technology, and also like where can innovation happen and how can things just be made better and be taken to the next level and add value to communities and to customers along the way. Shir Ibgui has been leading business development and partnerships at AI startups for over 5 years now and has developed a large interest in consumer behavior, digital innovation, e-commerce, and artificial intelligence. We dive a bit into her experience with AI and definitely get some of her insight from a retail perspective, which I found very, very, very interesting in this conversation. Towards the end of 2021, she dove into the world of Web3 by joining different NFT communities and learning more about the space, leading her to the idea for Globe Thrivers, merging her passion for travel and tech. We also get into some of the thinking about what could have been done differently should something have been launched, say in the 2021 hype cycle versus now, and how things are just much calmer waters, more challenging waters in some cases now, but also much more based on like fundamental business principles. So I love her insight, and I'm hoping our audience gets a lot out of that as well. Globe Thrivers is the first social travel club of its kind. Travelers, locals, creators, and industry experts from different background and experiences looking to connect with each other while researching, planning, and booking their trips. This came from a need for an authentic community, a need for trusted recommendations from people we relate to. I think she gets a lot deeper into it than that, but there's some high-level information about what Globe Thrivers is, who Shir is, and so we talked to her a bit about just the bringing value to real life use cases. We talk about being a founder, and especially in the tech space, and how to find the right kind of support and right type of team, which I hope brings value to many of you. Overall, just a really great, insightful conversation. I hope you all enjoy it. Without further ado, here is my conversation with the Miss Shir Ibgui of Globe Drivers. Enjoy. Hello, Shir. Welcome to the show. Welcome to From the Blockchain. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to be here with you today. I have really enjoyed our multiple one on one conversations. You have such wonderful ideas, and the impression I get from you is that you are truly entrepreneurial. You're truly a thought leader, but you're also the type that can take these things and move them forward and execute on them and get things done, which I really appreciate because I think there's many folks. In the Web3 space with a lot of ideas, which is great, but you got to take it to that next level. So maybe we'll share with our audience before we dive in. Like you and I met through Debbie Soon and Randy Zuckerberg's Group Hug Web3 Accelerator program, both as participants. And I'm so glad. I just shout out to Randy and Debbie and the team
Yeah,
there at Hug
love you guys.
because it really has offered not only like a wonderful experience for many of us, but also the opportunity to connect and meet
Yeah.
like-minded people or learn from people. Anyway, sorry, welcome to the show and thank you for being here. And maybe why don't we dive in a little bit to maybe your history, where you come from, and we'll touch a bit maybe on some of the learnings in our earlier days in Web3, and then we'll start talking about Globe Thrivers. So tell us, what were you doing before all this craziness?
So I am originally from South Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved to Tel Aviv about almost like 5.5 years ago or so. So I've been in Israel, and for those of you who don't know, Israel is like the Silicon Valley of this side of the world. A lot of tech companies here. It's actually impressive. And so right when I moved here, started working in the tech space, and I got into AI. That's really where my career started,
Mm-hmm.
working in artificial intelligence, but mostly on the business development, strategic partnership side. Really being able to analyze the market and see where the opportunities lie for emerging technologies. That's
Mm-hmm.
really my background. And I've moved around. I've been at a few startups, a lot in generative AI actually. And it's funny that it's a trend now because it's something that I've been doing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really been my background. And I've worked with such incredible companies, all of the major companies, and really building go to market strategies and understanding how technology can really change um, different industries. So, like most recently, it's really been incorporating artificial intelligence for retailers, customer experience for shoppers. So,
Mm-hmm.
how can retailers use the power of AI to improve the different discovery journeys that shoppers kind of experience? And so, like that company is called Sight, Visual AI, really cool. And so I've really kind of been in that space. And I've always had a passion for emerging tech. So when Web3 kind of, emerged, and I kind of started learning about it, I was like, oh wow, this is huge. Like I want to get into the space.
Mhm. Maybe before we dive into that, like, how have is has it come as any surprise to you to see the sort of AI explosion over the last 6 8 months, at least in the public sphere?
No, I'm not surprised because I've been working in this space for a while, and it's something that a lot of brands and retailers and companies always look to incorporate in their strategies. So,
Hmm.
something that I've really seen, and I've worked with a lot of global brands, is that sometimes they'll come and they'll say like, "We're having this problem. Is there a way to automate it?" Right? That happens a lot where companies are trying to optimize either their strategies, their internal processes, and AI does a great job doing that. So
Hmm.
if you're able to incorporate an artificial intelligence solution that can optimize a process that you're doing internally today, or just improve the experience for the end user, then why not? And
Hmm.
so that's been something I've been doing for 5 years, and I'm sure way before I even started working. I mean, the AI has been a thing, and people have been doing it. So I think that like just now it's becoming a bit more accessible. So I think
Hmm.
before. In the beginning of technology, it's always harder. Like, look at Web3. Like, it's so hard. Like, when I first started, I couldn't even find one Solidity developer. Now everyone's one, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's always hard in the beginning because it's a niche, and you have to
Hmm.
find the people that are in the space. So I think with AI now, and especially with open AI, I mean, like now that they just released like an open source platform, anyone can literally take that and build on top of it. It's making it much more accessible for people with ideas to build
Hmm.
on that and solve problems. And
Hmm.
so once you make something so accessible like that, why not? It's people have been using it to optimize processes for so long. So I'm not surprised at all. I think it's actually really cool, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next 6 to 12 months.
Awesome. So I think what you just said about just how challenging things might be or less not so accessible in the beginning is just such a strong parallel to Web3 and blockchain technology and kind of it coming into just even the public realm in terms of people knowing about it. They may not necessarily know what its capacity is. And clearly you have an interest in the emerging tech, but what really caught your eye and said, I want to like take a bite into this in a real way? What brought you into this space?
Um, a few things.
Mhm,
I think it was really like it was like a slow process for me.
mhm,
When I had first moved here, um, specifically in Tel Aviv, there was like a huge scene. I moved here in 2017, and there was a company. There's a huge crypto trading platform called eToro. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's the biggest one outside of the U.S.
mhm,
I'm not sure if they operate in the U.S. or not, but in Europe, Asia, basically this whole side of the world.
mhm,
Um, and so my husband started working there, and that's kind of what opened up the world of like crypto to me because
mhm,
I started learning about the space through him.
mhm,
Um, but the space was super like it's so saturated with men and like the crypto bros. I just like it didn't entice me. Like I didn't feel welcomed in that space. So it wasn't something that I just decided to like go into. But
mhm,
I was always fascinated by it. And, then COVID hit and we saw the market go a bunch of different directions, right? And then I started learning about NFTs in 2021.
mhm,
And so in 2021, I was really like learning about the space. I had a few friends that were like, building in the space. And I was like, wow, this is super cool. Like, this is something that's in this emerging tech space that I've been so interested in, but it actually allows me to express my creativity and is more welcoming to me. So I felt more comfortable joining the space and joining different communities. And then I saw World of Women come up and I saw BFF come up. And I'm like, wow, like these are so inclusive and like these are so great. Like I would love to be part of it. So then that's when I started buying my NFTs and joining different communities and learning about the space because I felt welcomed and I felt like I could express who I am and my creativity in this world of Web3, and that's kind of what really helped me get into the space. It
mhm.
was truly like that whole NFT hype because it was something that really like felt like a door opener for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that year in particular was a magical year, and I think anyone who had the opportunity to kind of see it at that time was very fortunate. And also credit due where credit's due, like paying attention and choosing to participate, I think is really important. So let's talk about Globe Thrivers. Globe Thrivers is your business, and that's kind of the premise in which, like, I met you working on Globe Thrivers through Group Hug. So why don't you tell us what is Globe Thrivers?
Yeah. So Globe Thrivers is a members only travel community
Hmm.
that's using blockchain technology to essentially authenticate our members and really engage our community and incentivizing them with exclusive perks and discounts when you are planning and researching your trip. So the whole concept is to just save significant time when you are researching and planning a trip. And we've incorporated a loyalty program that essentially will incentivize our members to contribute even more. So
Hmm.
the whole concept is just basically came to be when I was really learning about the space and I was thinking to myself, I was like, how can I build something in this space with this technology? And what industry could really use it?
Hmm.
And someone like I've been super passionate about travel my whole life. It really it kind of sparked in me when I studied abroad in Paris in 2015, and that's when I like really fell in love with traveling. I like traveled all around Europe, and then when I moved to Israel in 2017, I started traveling even more. Like on the weekends, you can go to Europe; it's so easy.
Hmm.
And living abroad, and then I had a travel and lifestyle blog with a friend for a couple years that actually was pretty like successful as a micro influencer back when like before everyone was an influencer.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
really was like I love traveling and sharing my content and recommendations. But then I remember like there was like a huge gap in the market when I like stopped my blog. Um, I saw that like a lot of people were reaching out. Like it was one of those things where it's like, hey Shir, like I'm going to Paris. Like, what restaurants do you recommend? Hey Shir, I'm coming to Tel Aviv. Where should I stay? Hey, I'm going here. Like, it was always people. And then I realized, like, even when I travel, I ask my friends that live there. Like, people always ask their friends or their contacts or their network, and then everyone has a list saved on their phone, and then they send that list to their friends. It's kind of like this like weird cycle, and no one's really benefiting off of it.
Mhm.
And it makes like it really creates a lot of friction when you're trying to plan your trip, which is why the average person like takes them like 30 hours to plan a trip of like 1 week, which is crazy.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, so how can we incorporate this technology and solve this problem?
Mhm.
And travel and hospitality is like a really like it's kind of like this outdated industry that I also feel like needs a bit like of judge. So that's kind of like where I came up with this concept to really merge the two. And then it naturally evolved over time because when I started building Globe Thrivers, it was like the market was like at a peak. And we interviewed for the Hedgehog advisory program that we both got in, and then, the market took a complete turn once that
Mhm.
program started.
Mhm.
And so when we were first creating this concept, it was very much, you purchase your NFT would be basically your membership, and then you get access to this community with all these benefits and so forth. And I think that, over the past 6 to 8 months, we've really had to look at ourselves as a startup, like an actual tech startup, and say, okay, like we need to actually build a product with the market fit and really think of a use case that makes sense for what we're building.
Mhm.
And so using NFTs beyond just the membership,
Mhm.
which is something that we're now incorporating within our loyalty program, which we're super excited about, and more to come in a few months. But
Mhm.
um, we really were able to partner with the right type of companies that would help us build that. So, like we partnered with Unlock Protocol, which essentially allows us to create like time-bound NFTs, which allows us to create annual subscriptions basically on chain.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's how your membership basically looks for Globe Thrivers. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but
Mhm. Awesome. So as of right now, you're basically in the midst of releasing your sort of founders tokens or like original participants, right? These are annual subscriptions. I think it's really, I hope people in the audience are hearing that. I think it adds um some depth to like what these NFTs can be beyond what people think they might be.
Mhm.
Really, like you said, it's a token. It's basically taking the digitization of things that have already happened, like memberships are already stored like in the cloud, for example, in many cases, but now it's putting it on chain, which can add things in terms of like verification, making sure, I'm assuming you add color where you think it fits, but I'm just thinking can help avoid issues like errors, things getting lost, things being misfiled, digitally misfiled or whatever, and being able to say distribute perhaps perks through on-chain mechanisms. And I tell me, I think and I believe your subscriptions are not necessarily things you can say go on and sell. Like you buy the subscription for a year, you're committed to that for the year, right? You can't sell your subscription on the secondary market, for example.
For now, no.
For now, okay.
But definitely stay tuned. But
Stay tuned.
for now, no, because and I'm not sure how much we want to go into this, but I
Yeah.
think that it's important also to share that like as a members only travel community, the recommendations you get from the members are valuable, right? Like it's like the same thing as why you ask your friend for tips because you trust your friend.
Mhm.
So it's very much instilled around the trust. And as a company that, when someone signs up for a membership, we ask you a lot of information about like your travels and like who you are so that we can get a good idea of like who the members are. And right now with the current web3 marketplaces that, people are trading on, we don't have the capability to get that kind of data.
Mhm.
And as a business that relies so much on its members and, to provide the benefits for your travels, it's hard for us to not be able to get that data.
Mhm.
So at the moment, no, because
Mhm.
of that reason, but
Mhm.
stay tuned.
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing you say is with the technology, there's a lot of possibilities. Is just really understanding what you're trying to do, trying to build, what your end result is, like what you're hoping to get, and also maybe as the technology and supporting tech, like within the ecosystem
Yeah,
advances, opportunities will continue to expand and grow.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. basically
Mhm.
where you're at. And I think every industry is like that, right?
Mhm.
It's like what's available for you to build out what you need, right?
Mhm.
And it's not always like there's always an argument in tech, right? Like build versus buy, and so that's something that you have to constantly think about when you're building something.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, right now, we're launching. We launched a few weeks ago our founding memberships. So we have about 200 founding memberships that are for sale. And basically, if you buy a founding membership, you become a founding member, and that gives you access to a discounted rate forever annually. That regular members won't get down the line because you're an early adopter and supporting us early on. And
Mhm.
all members get access to our community platform. And in our community platform, you get access to all of our recommendations, a personalized, like one-on-one concierge team that helps you with anything you need for your trip. Booking, we have over 1,000 hotels that we've already onboarded, airline services, travel companies that you can book directly through us. And so that's all available right now for all of our founding members to kind of go ahead and start engaging with us and giving us your feedback as we build our product even more over the course of the upcoming year,
Mhm.
and really being part of that journey with us. So that's what we're
Mhm.
looking for on our
Cool.
members.
That's awesome. And is it okay if we talk about price? Because I do think people are probably wondering, like, what does that look like? So, how much would a founding token, founding membership cost today, if it's still
Right?
available by the time of this airing?
So they cost $200 annually.
Hmm.
You can purchase in both crypto or with your credit card
Hmm.
in fiat. So
Hmm.
again, we're trying to spread mass adoption, and we want to open the doors to anyone who wants to be part of this community. So again, you can purchase in any currency you want, um, and $200 a year.
Hmm. That's awesome. I think that that's also a key takeaway. I think more and more we're hearing about this, making purchasing much easier, much simpler, not necessarily having to be crypto native, or at least super comfortable or super familiar. Um, and so I think that trend will continue on, and it's people like yourself who are prioritizing that, that's making that possible. So I think that's really wonderful. I think, and I hate to say this to all my degen friends, but just romanticizing what Web3 must look like, I think is very, I don't know, it doesn't add a lot of value to many people.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's also very hard
yeah.
because when you're trying to bridge that gap between the Web 2 and Web 3, right? Like Web 2.5 right now, like however people want to call it. When you're trying to bridge that gap, you're really reliant on the technologies that help you do that.
Mhm,
And the problem is that there's a lot of friction. And the number one thing when you're building a consumer product is the user experience. And
mhm,
you don't want to create friction in the user experience, but you're also trying to incorporate innovative technologies that don't really have as much support.
mhm,
So we had this issue when when we initially launched, like when we had our soft launch in the beginning to just like our immediate circle. We were like talking to Stripe that was engaging with Polygon, but Polygon's gas fees spiked randomly that day, which affected Stripe's capabilities of processing payment to then interact with like the blockchain. Like, who has to deal with that? Like
mhm,
that, I literally did not even think that was going to be an issue. And then look, right?
mhm,
And those are small things that like can really affect a user experience. And then we
mhm,
had to reach back out to all the members that tried purchasing during that couple hour window and then trying to help them solve that problem. Like these are things that like a business, has to deal with when you're trying to bridge that gap between these two worlds.
mhm,
And then we ended up creating two completely different purchasing flows. So then that would never happen, isolating those events because we don't want people to have that friction. So that requires, maybe more manual work on our end, but at least people can buy a membership much more seamlessly.
right. I think it's important to hear about these types of hiccups, um, for those who are building in the space, to appreciate that it's everyone's experiencing their own things and navigating unexpected challenges along the way, and that's part of it, and we're all like in a no funny way in it together. But I also think it's, you don't want to discourage people from jumping in. It's just you have to anticipate for now.
Mhm.
That's kind of the benefit is that there's not a lot of competition right now because a lot of folks aren't ready to take it on. And I do wonder for yourself as a founder, one thing, like, you do have compared to some folks I've talked to, is you do have a bit more of a technical background. And so perhaps you at least have some, whether it's your own experience and understanding of some of the nuances of some of these things, or understanding who you might need to surround yourself with to help you. But I do wonder, as a founder, like, how do you go about positioning yourself for success to like deal with not even just unforeseen, but just to be as best prepared as possible as you move forward day to day in your operations? Like, how do you surround yourself with expertise? How do you find people, especially when, you're doing something that maybe has never been done before?
Yeah, it's definitely a good question. So I think that surrounding yourself with people who can complement your weaknesses is super important. Or not weaknesses, or maybe gaps, or whatever it may be. And so, one thing is being able to, I think, have the right like team, making sure you have the right advisors, if that's what you're looking for. So like I can talk about like a few experiences that I've had. I would say like last year when, I decided to bring on board my partner, Jonathan, who has been in the travel industry for about 12, 14 years, because he had all the relationships in the hospitality and travel industry to bring on board all of these hotels and travel partners to believe in our mission and get them on board to partner with us. So that was something super important, because if not, I would have had to go do it cold, right? Cold outreach. um, and that's not as easy. And so being able to find someone that can help with that aspect, um, being able to find like a technical person. Like I'm not an engineer, not a developer. I don't code. I have knowledge because I've been in the space for a while, but that doesn't mean that I'm, an engineer. So, I found an engineering advisor that works in the travel space. And then for the past few months, I've been looking for a CTO to be able to help us, further, because I think I've reached my limit in terms of how much I can do technically on my own. And that took a really long time. And, that's something that was super important, for us to do, because I really needed to find someone to be able to take care of that, because it's so important and we want to do it right. So we just like literally we just found a fractional CTO and brought him on board a few days ago, which like
Mhm.
super happy about. And like it's really like going to be a big game changer for us. And then also bringing in someone who is like truly an expert when it comes to tokenomics and
Mhm.
loyalty, and
Mhm.
how can that person help us build out the best loyalty program.
Mhm.
So these are things that, it takes a long time to find the right people. And so that's what I've been basically doing for
Mhm.
months, right? Like finding these people, reaching out to them. Like a lot of the times, like you're just connecting with them on LinkedIn and sending them a little note, right?
Mhm.
So that's super important, making sure that you have the right people to support you in the areas that you need help with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that insight. I think it's helpful for folks to hear. I do want to touch on the rewards program a little bit because it was mentioned previously, but I personally think it's going to be one of the next big areas in Web3 where we see actual like use cases and it meaning something. Um, Can you describe a little bit more about what your rewards program will look like? Recognizing I'm sure there's going to be an evolution, you're probably going to be adding things along the way, but maybe you can give us some sort of examples of the types of things your members might do to get rewards, and then what rewards might, in theory, kind of look like.
So I'll share what we have today, and
Hmm.
then I'll give like a high level in terms of like what we're planning, because we're not really announcing it yet because we're still kind of building that out with our team.
Hmm.
But currently today, any member that comes into our our community platform, gets incentivized off engagement. So if you come onto our platform and you contribute content that helps other people, then you will get points for doing that, right? So it's engagement based loyalty. It's really incentivizing like that authentic content that you contribute to the
Hmm.
platform.
Hmm.
And then those points can be redeemed for benefits with our partners. So if you book through us, whether that's an upgrade in your room when you check in, or champagne in your room, or personalized note, or early check-in, late checkout, discounts. I mean, like it could be a variety of different benefits, through our partners that we've brought on board. So it's really incentivizing that authentic engagement because we really want to ensure that we have content that members are looking for, right? When you're planning a trip, you spend so many hours finding recommendations until you trust the recommendation that you found. And whether that comes from a friend or hours of research online.
Mhm.
So that's really like what we're building out. But in terms of, in the future, and what we're building now for down the line, right? Because this is really rudimentary using that data to kind of build something more robust.
Mhm.
Um, Web3 has the potential to really revolutionize the way loyalty programs and NFTs work.
Mhm.
And that's something that I'm really excited to test this year. And, we'll see if it works or not. It hasn't really been created. I think that like the closest thing I'm seeing to what I think it will be like is Starbucks Odyssey.
Mhm.
Um, right, like I've been on the wait list for so long and I got off the wait list like 3 weeks ago, so I'm super hyped. I'm like part of
Oh,
their community.
that's
Love
awesome.
it.
Mhm.
But Starbucks Odyssey did a cool thing, right, where they just told you to connect your rewards Starbucks rewards account to their marketplace, and then you get access to earning points by contributing and playing games and doing quizzes, and, it's really cool because it's another way to build loyalty, not just transactional.
Mhm.
And I think Web 2 is all about transactional loyalty, and I think Web 3 will kind of incentivize another type of loyalty,
Mhm.
um, adding another layer.
Mhm.
But Web 3 can do so many things, whether that's like decentralizing the entire loyalty program, kind of like reducing the walled gardens, and allowing loyalty to transcend not just one platform, but many different platforms, or maybe store the rewards on chain and find another way, I don't know, another way to incentivize people, um, using NFTs as like the digital asset that represents a reward. That's
Mhm.
something that a lot of companies are like looking into right now. Interoperability between loyalty programs and being able to merge with other loyalty programs, and again, reducing walled gardens when it comes to programs, not just social media or platforms. Enhancing transparency when it comes to loyalty programs, and ensuring that like loyalty rewards and NFTs are authentic and can't be, tampered with. There are so many ways that Web3 is going to revolutionize loyalty, and it's a big conversation right now in Web3. But I can tell you that as someone that works in retail tech for years, loyalty is a huge conversation point in retail in general, not
Mhm.
even related to Web3. I went to the National Retail Federation conference, NRF, in New York City this January, and the I would say the three biggest topics of conversation was customer experience, um, personalization, and loyalty. Like those were the three topics that I kept hearing. Like after meeting with tons of retailers, brands, system integrators, agencies, consultancies, like that is something that you're constantly hearing. And what's interesting is like these retailers saying, okay, how can I optimize my personalization strategy? How can I increase the lifetime value of my shoppers? Right? Like that's what Web3 can do, right? Like why not use this technology to do that exact thing? And I think that like that's what we're going to be seeing this year,
Mhm.
in terms of Web3
Mhm.
specifically.
Mhm. That was very insightful. I love all of the points you just made, and it's funny because you preemptively have answered my chat GPT question.
Oh,
So audience, our guests don't know the chat GPT question, but you even use the key language like revolutionize.
oh my God. Wow.
I'm going to read the question just to say you've answered it. But if there's anything you
Okay.
want to add, that's great. But I just think it's funny. So I'm just going to say it out loud. So it says, what specific ways do you envision Web3 and blockchain innovation revolutionizing the travel sector? So maybe we can touch on that. And what aspect of these changes are you most excited about? I think that you gave
Wow.
a wicked answer to that and you really touched on it kind of from the customer experience, retail, all of that. Maybe, and obviously what you're doing is working in the travel sector, but if there's maybe one thing that really stands out that you're most excited about, maybe we can let you add so I didn't create the chat GPT question in vain.
Okay. Welcome.
That was awesome.
um, I think that there's okay, so there's a lot of different ways, and I'll tell you what I tell a lot of these hotels that we bring on board, because I just want you to like picture like it was almost a year ago where I started like pitching Globe Thrivers to our hotel partners,
Mhm.
probably like 9 months ago, and they were like, what the heck is an NFT?
Mhm.
Like, that was the first question I got from every hotel that I pitched to. And then I had to go into explaining what it was, and I had to go into explaining like what our vision is and what we wanted to do. And sometimes it made it more complicated than it needed to be, but
Mm.
sometimes it got them really excited. They're like, okay, like anyways, we're not going to be doing this anytime soon, so let's like just partner with you and dip our toes and kind of learn through you guys, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Um, but sometimes it made it too complicated, and then they just got nervous.
mhm,
So like the way that we're kind of presenting it is there's so many ways that you can build loyalty and build awareness of your brand with the end user, right? And NFTs is just another way of doing that.
mhm,
So why not use that in a way that you can represent a certain reward or access to a certain experience or whatever it may be that you guys offer, but just through an NFT that you can then target a new audience. Anyways, a lot of these brands have a hard time targeting millennials and Gen Z. Everyone is trying to target millennials and Gen Z because obviously that's where the disposable income is heading over the next few years, right? It's growing and growing and growing naturally because we're getting older and we're all advancing in our careers and
mhm.
Gen Z is entering their careers. So there's a reason why they're targeting these generational groups. And if this is where they're hanging, right? Like they're hanging out, pay attention there. So that's kind of like the way that we're kind of presenting that. But I think that like overall, there's very, very, very few Web3 companies in the travel and hospitality space.
Mhm.
I think that there's one that I've been following for a while that I think is really interesting and it's a really good use case of NFTs. It's called Pink Tata. And they like created a marketplace where you can like book a hotel room and then sell or swap it at any time if like you're not if you're not going, like if you don't need
Mhm.
that reservation or if it's not yours, because right, like a lot of the times hotels have no cancellation if you don't pay for it, so then if there's no cancellation, whatever, it's fine, like you can sell the reservation to somebody else. That's really cool. Like that's a cool concept of NFTs in hospitality and travel. So that's like an example of like what I've seen out there. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
ChatGPT.
that's awesome. I appreciate it. I think that the key thing that was missed in the 2021, early 22 kind of wave of NFTs as a market in and of itself was like build something and create its use case later. Like why does it exist? And people were just so hyped about it and speculating that, it just didn't matter, right? And now what's happening, which is common sense, it's about building businesses or enhancing businesses that can incorporate the tech and create new value out of it. And that's, clearly
100%.
what you're looking to do here, and
100%.
solving real problems, right? I mean, maybe you can give us a little bit more insight into your thinking with reviews, for example. Like, I think that there's probably, Airbnb as this subcategory, like, vacation stays. They've done a decent job at adding value for people looking to stay in places and the review system. And mostly, I think, trusted. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming most people participating in giving reviews are legitimate, like people who've stayed in those properties, etc. But when you're out in the, like, when you're Googling things, when you're searching on Yelp or you're searching wherever people search for, um, just to know what other people's experiences has been. You're really trying to figure out, like, is this a valid or trustworthy
Yeah.
review? So I'm Globe Thrivers kind of brings value to that real world problem, I'm thinking.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll tackle 2 points that you mentioned. The first point you mentioned is the fact that there wasn't a real life business case in a lot of NFT projects that launched in 2021, early 2022. Um, that's true, and it's interesting because I always think back and say like it's crazy because if I had not built out a business case,
Mhm.
then I would have just launched a 10,000 piece collection, may or may not have sold out,
Mhm.
and then what, right? Like
Mhm.
and then I could have taken that and then, like, build something after the fact,
True.
but a
Mhm.
lot of the times it would have been rushed because you
Mhm.
don't know if it's gonna be rushed and if you're not gonna build exactly what they need, but then there's the opposite where, because 'cause I'm thinking about it from a business perspective, it's like, that was a really easy way of fundraising.
Mhm. Kind of wishing could go back a little bit.
right?
Yeah.
You were able to fundraise because people believed in your mission, and then you were able to build something for those people, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
without essentially giving equity of your business for that
mhm,
money.
mhm,
Um, but then how do you build a business model off something that someone has a lifetime access to something and they're never paying for it again, right? Like it's
mhm,
a one-time fee that you then have forever. Like it's one of those things like how do you build a business model off that?
mhm,
Um, and then I think about it from today, like how are people doing that now? Are like is there like a middle ground between having to fundraise and being able to build something like a regular web 2 tech company and then building that product and then going to market, or is there a way in the middle, right? Because the whole thing about web 3 is building in public, right? Like
mhm,
transparency and community and getting people's feedback. And so I think what we did is something in the middle, or what we're currently doing because it's in real time right now. Um, Very much, we built a business plan. That's like what I've been working on, right, over the past like year. Building out that business model, bringing on the partners, bringing on the value, right? Like that's what we've been working on, building that, and then saying, okay, like we don't have our own app or product yet, but there are a lot of community platforms that we can use to provide the baseline of benefit that our members can get, right? The partners, the benefits, the bookings, the recommendations, right? And then we'll sell our memberships. Those people will be founding members. They'll get additional perks for supporting us early on. And then once we actually have our own product ready, then we'll go out and publicly, sell our memberships in a much bigger scale,
mhm,
um, because that product is then ready. So it's kind of like a mix of both because they're getting the value off the bat and we're saying, hey, like support us early on, right? That revenue is going to help us build something that will benefit all of our members.
mhm,
um, you get the benefit. Personalized support will be very manual in the beginning, but then when we have our product ready, you'll get most of the benefits because you were an early adopter and you helped us and supported us from the beginning. And I
mhm,
think that that's a really good way to kind of mesh the two worlds,
mhm,
um, because we're really transparent. Like we're giving updates every few weeks to our founding members and our waitlist community and everyone, and just saying like, hey guys, this is where we're currently at. Hey guys, we just got into an accelerator program and we just raised money for our pre-seed round, which we just did a few weeks ago, right? Like, hey
Congratulations.
guys, thank you.
Mhm,
Hey guys, like we just brought on board a CTO. Hey guys, like this is what we're planning on building out. Like, what do you think of these features? Right. So we're still building in public. We're still doing those things that like people love about Web3, like the Web3 ethos of community and transparency. But in a way that I think is more business focused and like, these are our goals. Like we actually have like, this is our roadmap. This is what's coming. If that makes sense. I know that went off on a tangent, but
no, that's great. I think that that adds a lot of value and actually sparks some thinking for myself. And I hope it provides some ways for people that are thinking of entering the space to be thoughtful about how they might be able to do it. I did want to hear your thoughts on the sort of review stuff too, just
oh
as a
yes,
like, no, actually, I think this former part of my I'm notorious for my long-winded questions that end up only a third of it being heard. Um, but maybe just touch on the problem solving, like the solution, that you're bringing to the table with this sort of
sure.
platform.
So the answer to your question is micro communities.
Mhm.
So I think that like over the past 3 years, I think that's like when TikTok kind of emerged, right? During COVID, we saw a really big trend in micro communities. Like even within TikTok, you have mom talk, you have food talk, you have baby talk, you have all these little, like all these talks, right? That's micro communities. And then on top of that, you're seeing membership clubs like Soho House skyrocket and sell memberships to millennials more than any other generational group because people want to be part of a micro community. They want to be part of something that they identify with like-minded individuals that surround them. Um, and we're seeing a lot of this trend of micro communities. And so that's exactly kind of what we're trying to do here, right? We're creating this micro community in the world of people who travel and they like to go to similar places and they trust each other's recommendations so that it cuts the time that you actually end up researching because you trust these people. It's like asking your friend, right? But instead of having to individually text all the friends and think about which friends actually went to the places you're traveling to, it's this place that you can trust and that this is a closed community of individuals. So that's like off the bat, one thing that like, we're capitalizing on in terms of like what's going on in the market. The second thing is like verifying reviews, right? So like even if these are people that are in the community, yes, you trust them more than just anyone, but you're still able to kind of verify reviews, and this is something that we're actually in the midst of now building out. So I can't really talk about it too much. But how are you able to do that? And as a company, how can we verify someone's review for someone that hasn't been there? And how do we incentivize those verified reviews? So these are things that we're now building out, and just stay tuned again.
Shir, we mentioned earlier on in the show that we met through the Randy Zuckerberg and Debbie Soon's sort of Hug ecosystem. I was part of the group Hug Accelerator program, and we met there. I know that you've got another program that you're participating in right now. Can you tell us a little bit about the value that that's added or the learnings that have come from participating in that type of environment?
Yeah. So I think that it's always good to have support, right? It's always good to have like a support group or people that are in the space that are going through the same thing. So you learn from each other. It really sparks ideas and it kind of helps you get through the rough patches, I would say. Um, when we joined Hug, I think for me, the program started in August. It was very much, it's an advisory program. So there is, Debbie Soon, there's Randy Zuckerberg, there's Michael Littig, there's a bunch of, there's Amy. There's like, I think 10 or 12 people that are on their team that were there to support us with anything we really needed, right? Like there was an engineering person, a product person, a marketing person, social media, strategy, like you name it. If you needed something, like there was someone there to help you. That then we're pretty much, deep in the Web3 space. So they really have a lot of insight of what's going on in the market and they're able to kind of help you with that. So the Hug program was great because we were able to get that support from them, and it was really great to also be part of the different sessions they hosted to connect with other entrepreneurs that were in the space that we're building, and you can ask each other questions, learn from each other, do Twitter Spaces together, right? We did a few of those, and we were able to go out in the market together. So I think that was really helpful in strategizing, the mission, the business model, what's going on, learning from other people. Now we're in an accelerator program. The company that runs it is called XRC Ventures. We are super excited to be part of them. We literally we joined it about a month ago. I was in New York City for the kickoff. And XRC Ventures is like a venture firm and startup accelerator that invests in companies in the retail tech and consumer goods space, and consumer facing products. So we're like, if I'm not mistaken, the only company that is incorporating Web3 that they've invested in. So, so like,
Shir, you have added so much value, I think, for our audience today. I think as a disruptor, an innovator, an entrepreneur, a business builder, someone who's really open to take risks and like blaze trails in a space where there's no guided path. I think you're just doing such a wonderful job. I hope everyone takes the time to learn more about yourself and more about Globe Thrivers. As you know, usual, I'm from the blockchain. We're not here trying to like sell anything. We're really trying to share stories of like thought leadership and business innovation. So at the very least, I think like you folks all listening should go and follow Shir and follow Globe Thrivers. And if it's of interest, then, make your own educated decision about what you want to do. But it's piqued my interest. Like I knew a bit about what you were doing based on our conversations. But I think like I need to get in here and become a part of your ecosystem. Because I think I probably could make good use out of it. I like to travel and all of that. But also I want to follow along as you build and see the journey and see how this all develops. I think there's a lot of value in that in of itself. So sure. Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you if they're wanting to follow along and follow your journey?
Chorus. So if you want to follow Globe Thrivers, follow us Globe Thrivers on Instagram, on Twitter, and also you can check out our website, globethrivers.com. So right there, you can just see all about us. You can even get a high level glimpse of our platform and what we're building there. And then if you want to follow me personally, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I like to post about what's going on in both in the whole emerging tech space. So Shir Ibgui, you can follow me there, or on Twitter or on Instagram. You guys can find me all over. But
Cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Well, we'll make sure that all of your links are in the show notes. So folks, if you're listening, check down below and give Shir and Globe Thrivers a follow. Shir, this has been such a pleasure. You're amazing. Just so happy to have had the opportunity to get to know you and chat with you and that. But I think that we'll look back on this conversation and I think you will have built out something really badass. So I'm excited to have had the opportunity to share it with our audience. So thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you for
I know it's late where you are and you probably still have meetings, it sounds like. So always working. Awesome. All right, Shir. Have a wonderful day, audience. See you again soon from Blockchain. Thank you for joining us on From the Blockchain. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions about today's episode, please send us a message so we can answer it. If you want to learn more about Fame Lady Squad or how you can get involved with NFTs, please visit our website or join our growing community on Discord. We genuinely believe we couldn't do the things we do without the support of our community and listeners like you. So thank you. We'll see you again soon.